loneliness. I don't know about you, but it's one of my greatest fears. How not to be lonely. Pat Love, what is the greatest misconception about loneliness?
Most people think of lonely people as older, living alone, and single, and maybe no friends, maybe out of the workforce, and it's just not true. In fact, the very old, the elderly, are a lot less lonely than many young people and those in middle age. In fact, the greatest group of people who are lonely are in their 40s and 50s. Yes, and an increasing number of young people are lonely. Also, it's a misunderstanding to think just because you live alone that you're lonely. A lot of people who live alone really like living alone, and they get energy from being alone, that solitude, that time by themselves, so they can go out and be perhaps the life of the party or spend time with other people and use their talents in noble ways. So it's not just people who live alone. In fact, 29% of people who are married say they're lonely.
Oh, I have heard that so many times.
Yes.
I'm a lonely, single, married person. I've heard a lot of people say that.
In fact, the loneliest night you can ever spend is often lying next to someone you love.
Or someone you don't love.
Or someone you don't love.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, is there a great misconception between loneliness and depression?
Yes. Loneliness is actually a drive. It's a very healthy drive. As human beings, we have two big advantages. We have a big brain and we help each other. We're not the fastest species. We're not the strongest species. But the fact that we have this big brain, we're really smart, and we help each other, that has enabled us to survive and thrive. So loneliness is a drive that gets you to, yes, be able to be by yourself, but be able to collaborate and cooperate and be with people, so that, because nobody can do it all yourself. You can't do it all. You can't, go out and kill the animal for the hide and build the chair and bring it to your office so that you can't do it all.
Right.
We need each other. So a drive toward collaboration and cooperation and helping one another and connecting to each other is what loneliness is all about. Depression, on the other hand, is a state. It has many etiologies. There are lots of different reasons. In fact, if you think you're depressed, it's really important to seek help, because there's such good help out there now for depression. Anybody who's been lonely and been depressed, they'll tell you there's a very different feeling to it. But just imagine if you're depressed and you're walking along the beach and you see a beached whale and you go and you get help and you get that whale and you finally get the whale and the whale gets out in the ocean and the whale swims off and everybody's happy. If you're depressed, you're not happy, But if you're lonely and you use your talent, your strength, your resources to help another creature, to help other people, to make the world a better place, to make a contribution, your loneliness lifts. So loneliness is a drive, depression is a state.
So you're also saying that how not to be lonely is to connect, is to help, is to sort of get out of yourself.
In fact, if you want shortcut to offset loneliness, get outside yourself, help somebody, make someone else's day, make someone else happy. Use what talent you have. It can be for making pancakes, to make someone's life a little bit better. It can be small acts of kindness. It can be picking up the clothes that dropped on the department store floor without that you didn't do it, so you pick it up anyway. I mean, it's like making a contribution where you are, but mainly it's getting outside yourself. So that's one big way. Another way is to take the existing relationships that you have and deepen them. Think about this question. When was the last time somebody showed up for you, not because it benefited them, but because they knew it was important to you? They showed up. Number two, when they got there, they paid such close attention. You got their undivided attention. Number three, they paid attention to you long enough that they know that's who Cindie is. That's who she is. And number four, their behavior then, the next time you saw this person, showed you and proved to you that he or she was listening and paying attention. I mean, that's how you deepen relationships. You show up, you pay attention, you tune into somebody and then you pay attention long enough till you get them, you understand them. And number four, your behavior shows that you understand. When you have somebody that does that for you, or you do that for somebody else, that deepens that relationship.
And that reminds us to be mindful that when someone does want to do something for you, to let them.
Yes. I have this short story I'll tell about taking care of my girlfriend when she was having surgery, and everybody started complimenting me. And I was feeling sort of awkward because for me, it was a privilege. For me, it was a pleasure. But then it hit me, if I was getting this much pleasure from taking care of her, how many people I had robbed of the pleasure of taking care of me. Yes. So you make such a good point, and that is, let people help you. Ask for help. We all love to help. It's the nature of our species. It's what makes us happy. So you got to let people help you, and then reach out and help when you see it's needed.
Now, Pat, when people say they're lonely, or if they feel they're lonely, I should say, do some people, is there a connection with addiction? Do they fill it with a cigarette or a glass of wine?
Strong connection between addiction is often self-medicating. I don't want to feel what I'm feeling. And let me just say that there are 5 questions to ask yourself that are related to loneliness. And any one of these can lead to reaching out and getting a quick fix. Like you said, the cigarette or the alcohol or the drugs or the shopping, whatever it is. First question is, who am I? If you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know your core values, and you don't exemplify these core values every single day.
I want to ask you this, because that, I think, is key, is knowing who you are.
Yeah.
How do you really find out who you are?
Here's a good question. When you're dead and gone, how do you want the people you love right now to remember you? Think of the people that you love.
Yes.
When you're dead and gone, how do you want them to remember you? And you come up with about 3 adjectives. For me, I want my friends and family to say she was loving. So if loving is one of my core values, at the end of every day, I should be able to say, Pat, okay, what did you do today that was loving? And I should have an answer and another answer and another answer. Because when you're...
I'm going to put that on my refrigerator door. I think that is... I think that's a great question.
It's a key. Because, in fact, the loneliest time of my life wasn't when I was sitting home alone by myself. It wasn't that. I was married. I had 2 healthy kids. I didn't have financial worries. I had friends. I had people all around me. But I was living someone else's life. I didn't know who I was.
Now that strikes a chord.
I did not know who I was. And I was living a script written by somebody else.
Wow. Okay, so once you get to know yourself.
Who are you? The second one is, are you connected? Take the relationships that you have. Do you know how to deepen those connections? Do you, in the book we go into 10 levels of intimacy, because for some people it's all small talk, or it's all about me and it's never about you, or it's a subject that, yes, I'm interested in, but I'm not tuned in enough to see if you're interested, if you're even engaged.
Right.
So there's some very basic, simple skills that teach you to deepen connections, because just surface connections won't do it. We do that with technology. We get enough, for 140 character messages in our life. We don't need any more of those. We want deep, those magic moments between 2 people. The third question is, am I living in community? Do I make a contribution to the world, to the city, to the neighborhood, to my friends or my religious community or my sports team or whatever it is, political affiliation? Do I make an investment?
And that's a great way to have your efforts live on.
Yes, exactly.
Beyond this life.
In fact, one of the fastest ways to lift loneliness is go do something for somebody else. Yeah.
Right.
The fourth one is, are my talents being utilized in meaningful work? Meaningful work. By the way, this doesn't have to be what you're paid for. So it could be, for some people, they get paid to use their talents in meaningful work. For some people, they have a career, and the meaningful part is just going up the ladder in the career. For other people, they have a job, and it makes the money to enable them to use their talents for meaningful work, which may be coaching Little League, or teaching guitar,
or cooking a great meal,
or having a garden out in front that gives pleasure to people around you. So, but you got to say, are my talents, whatever my talent, maybe for listening, maybe for showing up, maybe for painting houses, whatever it is, are my talents being utilized in meaningful work? And the last question is, am I living out the purpose of my life? Am I doing what I came here to do? Or does my life have meaning? And of course, if you answer those first 4 questions, you're probably going to say yes to the last one. But it really is worth spending some time to think about, does my life have meaning? And what is the purpose? Why am I here? And am I doing my best to fulfill that purpose?
And do you find you can get a lot of information by truly stopping, meditating, and really reflecting on where you are, what you're doing?
Yes. One of the sections in the book is called "The Day Pat Sat." It was by accident.
The Day Pat Sat.
Right.
I like that.
Right. And it was a day I was visiting a friend out in San Francisco, and he was working, and that was before cell phones and before the fact that we took our office with us everywhere. And there was nothing to do. I was at his house. He didn't have a TV, and I just sat. I really thought about my life, and I finished every sentence, and I got to finish those thoughts. That how many thoughts you go right this far, and you go that far so many times, but you never complete.
You're not getting a ding for a text, or somebody's not calling you.
Right.
You're there,
and you're completing it, and you give it all the time it needs. And I have to say that was a pivotal point in my life, to really take some time away for reflection, for solitude, for retreat. And making a practice of that. We talk a lot in the book about mindfulness. In other words, being purposeful about what you do. Whatever you do it on purpose. The single greatest practice that's changed my life recently is simply a meditation practice that goes like this. You simply do one thing at a time.
Wow. And for a multitasker, congratulations.
I know. Well, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but whatever I do, I do my best to do one thing at a time.
And one more question. What about technology? Because we are so in touch. That's when you say, when Pat sat.
Right.
I can see you just sitting without, being bombarded by phone calls or emails. But the average person, aren't you just flooded with phone calls? If not phone calls, emails from thousands of people you've never met before.
Or the urge.
Or the urge.
Facebook. Or
playing Scrabble on your iPhone.
Right. Right. Well, the brain loves stimulation. Literally, if a baby's born with billions of brain cells and few neural circuits connecting them. And the only way the neural circuits get formed is through stimulation, coming in through your senses. We have to have stimulation. And we crave stimulation. And now we have stimulation 24/7. 24 hours of YouTube videos are downloaded every minute. Novelty. I mean, we have so much stimulation, but it's much like food and being able to regulate food. When you eat beyond your need, it sets up craving. See, stimulation, it's hard to regulate. We've got to have stimulation. We have to have technology. You can't even be in business nowadays without it,
Exactly.
So, but how do you regulate it? How do you know when to quit and when you need that solitude? And so it's a bigger challenge today when we're so connected. But the problem is, yes, we are connected via technology. It doesn't create those magic moments. It's no substitute for face-to-face. You have to have this kind of time to offset loneliness.
Yes, and the handwritten note. We've got to bring that back.
We've got to bring it back.
Yes. Well, Pat, I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but truly, after reading the book, Never Be Lonely Again, I have decided that is my gift to everyone who has a birthday, a wedding, feeling, off work for the day and they need a get well present. It's a wonderful read. Never Be Lonely Again. Isn't that satisfying?